Have you ever driven past a police car before? If you're anything like me, you probably pump the brakes just a little bit just to make sure you're following all of the rules correctly and then keep on going. But how about this? Has a police officer ever pulled up behind you and began following you? If you're anything like me, again, you'll probably feel a little bit of sinking dread in your chest as you feel like you're not following all of the rules correctly. Now imagine this. The lights flip on and now you're being pulled over. But as you were driving, you find yourself in an area that's a little unsafe feeling for you and that isn't super public. So you continue driving to find a more public and safe place to pull over in. As you're driving, the police officer has radioed in that you have a gun pointed out the window at them, and they begin firing 100 shots of bullets into your car. As you continue driving while you're being shot at, you finally find a place to pull into, however you end up crashing your car. Once you're stopped, a police officer approaches your car right at the windshield, points his gun at you, and fires 15 shots into your windshield, hitting you in the head, neck, and arms, ultimately resulting in your death. Sadly, this actual case has happened and was documented by Aleta Feder in the case of Melissa Williams and Timothy Russell. Sadly, because of cases like this, and sadly because of this case and many other like it, there has been a huge debate in America about whether or not we need police reform. I'm planning on minoring in criminology, so I've taken several classes now that have dealt with issues in police reform and what we should do to solve it. Through my studies, I have found that it is very apparent to me that we do need a really big form of police reform in this country. Police officers are essential to our community. However, there have been way too many cases of citizens being let down by those who are here to serve and protect them. It is my belief with new policing techniques such as police reform, both officers and communities will benefit. The first bit that I think that should be addressed deals with the ethics training that is given to officers currently. According to an article titled "Regulating the Reasonableness of Police Violence," officers are currently being taught something called the Graham Standard that essentially establishes what actions are objectively reasonable within a line of duty. However, it fails to promote what a truly reasonable officer actually is. This results in not holding the officer to a higher standard, but rather treats them like a normal citizen reacting to any given tricky situation. Frederick G. Reamer, an ethics instructor, and Thomas A. Verdi, a deputy chief, stated that it's actually quite simple to tackle what the Graham Standard lacks by adding 3 things: the nature of ethical dilemmas in law enforcement, ethical analysis and decision-making, and risk management. The hope of implementing these new topics is that officers will be able to deal with tricky situations in the field by viewing it from more than just their point of view. This will make police officers less of a liability by making them seem a lot less unbiased and like more of a person that's exercising the law correctly. Without the ability to see situations from several viewpoints, it can be really hard to assess the situation and respond in a correct and reasonable manner that results in as little violence as possible. Safety is important for citizens as well as officers, and that's why new ethics training should be taught throughout the course of an officer's career, as ethics is constantly changing. This will protect not only themselves, but all the other people that they're protecting within their community. When it comes to keeping officers liable, while ethics training really does help, body cameras can also really fit the bill. Body cameras are starting to be used a lot more frequently as a required part of officers' uniforms. This basically helps hold the officer accountable for their actions while also providing camera footage that could potentially be used as evidence in later trials. In an article titled "Should Police Officers Wear Body Cameras?", a study was highlighted that found that officers that were wearing body cameras were 66% less likely to use any type of force. With the percentages high, it's really clear to see that it's obvious that the use of police cameras will really decrease the excessive use of force. Another study was also conducted by the University of Nevada that found that body cameras also found that body cameras reduced the use of force. However, it positively impacted the police department's budget. The officers that were used in this study had at least one misconduct complaint from the year prior, but over the course of the year's-long study, that had decreased by 30%. And ultimately just saved the department $4,000 annually, even with the purchase of the new body cameras. This influx of money could potentially provide a lot more services within the criminal justice system, or even just bring down the amount needed for law enforcement in general. The use of body cameras can also provide a huge sense of just peace within victims who are dealing with police officers. as they feel like the law is more on their side rather than against them. The Cato Institute sent out a survey asking the public how they felt about the use of body cams on their police officers in their communities. As displayed, the Cato Institute sent out a survey asking the public if they supported the use of body cams put on the officers within their community. As shown in this graph, it can be seen that the general population of all races strongly supported the use of body cameras within their community. A feeling of trust between officers and citizens will hopefully increase due to the fact that they have video evidence of the altercations that are happening between the two. However, this idea of trust is generally referred to something called legitimacy. As defined by Samuel Walker in his book Sense and Nonsense About Crime, Drugs, and Communities, legitimacy refers to whether people perceive the police as fair and just. By having police officers be more involved within the communities that they're working in, it can build a lot more stronger bonds with the people that they could potentially come in contact with. Typically speaking, you cannot have policing without the use of legitimacy. Due to the fact that if police officers aren't trusted and respected, the people within the community aren't going to turn to them for help and rather turn on them. By having police officers be more involved with things such as new policing policies, such as community-oriented policing, officers will be able to focus their time on crimes that are actually happening within their community rather than the ones that are more worldwide spread. It's really about having officers portray themselves as friends rather than foes in this situation, especially by having officers get to know people in their communities on a personal level. As people of all ages, especially those who feel like they're being personally targeted by a lot of policing policies that are already in act today. This can help the citizens put a friendly face on the people that are potentially helping them out in times of need, and see them as people who are really here to help rather than somebody who's here to rough them up if anything happens, like if they break any laws. Police reform is possible and it's definitely needed. With the use of ethics training and body cameras and just building a sense of legitimacy between officers in the communities, it can really alter how our police officers are responding to a lot of our situations. And it could really make it go in a lot more of a positive way. With the 2020 elections coming up, I really hope that you take this talk into consideration as you're voting for somebody, as police reform is a hot button topic discussed in politics today. If not, at the very least, I hope that you can use it to help yourself and others stand up for things that are happening within the police department that you think could be fixed. We all deserve to be treated fairly. We all deserve to be treated fairly. Those needing protection and those that are doing the protection.